go ahead and talk about phase 2 of focus note taking, which is processing and annotating your notes. So what is processing and annotating your notes? So basically, processing or annotating your notes means that basically you're thinking about the notes. Just as you would show your work for math, phase 2 shows the teacher that you actually went through, reread your notes, and processed the information. This should be done within the first 24 hours of taking notes. If you wait longer, you'll forget more information. Your notes might get messy during this time as you revise it, but that's okay. And this phase focuses on clarifying content and organization. So you might be asking yourself, what is annotating? Annotation is the act of making a note of any kind while you're reading. You can annotate your notes by underlining them, highlighting them, circling them, questioning, saying what, I don't understand. You can delete information. In other words, you can cross off things that you don't think will help you remember for the test. You can classify information into different categories. You can add more info. You can organize them in such a way that it'll help you to remember better. You can chunk them, which means that you put them into different sections, and you can also write down main ideas or cross off the less important ideas. You can identify the main idea by selecting, sorting, classifying, and organizing. So in other words, you can highlight it, circle it, or put it into its own category. So this is what I would usually give you in class. This is how you would annotate with highlighters. So if you're annotating for another class, this is one way that you can do it. Yellow could mean the main idea, green could be a major event, blue could be vocabulary, and pink could be questions. So if you're doing notes on the computer, you can use the highlighting tool, which I'll show you in a few minutes on how to do it. But if you're actually writing notes by hand, this is a good way to annotate your notes as well. Annotation is not just highlighting without a purpose. If you're highlighting random things, you're not annotating. If you just randomly underline or highlight the majority of the text, that's not annotating either. And if you just draw symbols without writing or meaning, then that's not annotating as well. So why do we annotate? The majority of reading is just skimming. So if you're just skimming the information, it's not helpful to you if you're trying to learn new information or trying to remember it for the long run. When you annotate, it forces you to slow down, it promotes active reading, it improves your reading and writing, and it allows the reader to make deeper connections. This is really important for history because you're going to learn a lot of information, and it's important to do your best to remember it. Here are the steps to annotate a text. So first, you're going to preview the text. You're going to go ahead and look ahead, briefly skim, read the headlines, subheadlines, pictures, captions. So basically, you're just getting a quick little snapshot of what your notes look like. Then you'll read a portion of the text. If it's a really long chunk of text, you can start off with a couple paragraphs. Go back over the text you just read and use your annotation guide to help you. If you Google annotation guides on the internet, there's actually many different ways you can use symbols. 4, you're going to check to see if your annotations make sense. So if you're going back and rereading it later, is it going to make sense to you, or did you just highlight things without meaning? So remember, try to use as much of your own words as possible, because remember, these are your notes. It's to help you remember. And then lastly, you'll repeat steps 2 through 4 until you finish the whole text of your notes. Since we are participating in distance learning this year, this is a couple ways that you can annotate digitally. So you can revise your notes by underlining them, you can highlight them, you can use chunking if you want. So basically that just means creating a space so that we have different sections for different ideas. You can add information using italics, different color text, or highlighting to identify new information. If you think there's information that's not useful to you, you can use strike through by clicking Alt, Shift, and 5 to try to cross it out. You can use bullet points or numbers, you can use bold terms, and you can also add images from the internet if that helps you to remember. So remember, you don't have to do everything. These are just some ideas. The way you annotate is going to be completely up to you. This is a traditional example on how to annotate your notes. So you can see this student, she used different highlighters, she used some questions, and later on she uses different ways to underline her text. Here's another really good example. So you can see that she puts her own little notes into the comments. She asked asking herself questions, she used highlighters, and later on she also did use drawings as well. You can sketch on your notes if you want or put different symbols as long as they're relevant to the notes. So say, for example, these notes are talking about Stalin. If you put your own picture of Stalin or drawing, that would be fine as well. This is a really good example on how to annotate your notes using the style that we'll be using for distance learning. So on this top right here, this is an annotation key for you. So instead of having different pen highlighters, these are different ways you can highlight on the computer. Also, you can see that this person put comments. So if you want to put a comment on your page, you would highlight a selected text. Then you would click this little button right here that looks like a little chat box with a plus in it. And then you can add your own comments. You can also highlight in different colors. So for our class, I need to see at least these colors being used at least once throughout your notes. So that way I know that you're actually reading the notes. So remember with annotating, all it is that it's just showing me that you actually went through and you read your notes. So make sure that you're at least highlighting. You can put comments if you want or images, but just make sure that you are showing your annotations. I'm going to go ahead and show you an example on how to annotate online. So here's an example. If you look right here, this little focus note-taking checklist, if you ever forget this lesson, it does have little instructions on how to complete each step. So let's go ahead and do phase 2 annotating because we already finished all of our notes. So the notes should be completely finished like this for this set of notes. So for annotating, let's go ahead and look to see if a key is located somewhere on this page. A key is usually a guide to tell other readers or even yourself what the different annotations mean. So I do provide you with an annotation on the top. So let's go ahead and use that. So let's go ahead and first preview the text. So let's go ahead and preview these two portions of the text. So I'll give you a few seconds to do that. So remember, you're just skimming it. Alrighty, so you already previewed the text. Awesome. The next step is to go through and read each portion little by little. So let's just read this portion right here. What is geography? What is geography? Geo is Greek in origin. Geo means earth. Graphin means graphing or drawing. Geography is the study of the earth. Geographer is a person who studies the earth and its people. And a geographer mixes the physical and human aspects of our world into one field of study. And geography shows the relationship of people and the environment. So we already went and read through a portion of the text. Awesome. So now let's go ahead and try to annotate it. So I'm going to be using this key right here. So let's see, are there any questions in this one? Well, this one's a question and it's also a title. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this one with a yellow highlighter to show that it's a question. And I'm going to also highlight the other half in pink to show that it's a title. You can just do one color or the other, whatever helps you to remember better. So let's go ahead and read through it and annotate as we highlight it. So it says geo is Greek in origin and geography is the study of the earth. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight geography because I think that's pretty important. To highlight, you're going to go ahead and see this little button right next to the letter A. That's to highlight. So you'll click it and pick the color that you want. If you do use different colors, make sure you change this up above so that way I know how you're highlighting it. Let's go ahead and keep reading. A geographer is a person who studies the earth and its people. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in bold and underline it because I think that's important. Geography mixes the physical and human aspects of our world into one field of study. So to remember the difference, I'm going to go ahead and highlight it, bold, and italicize it. This is just to help me remember the two different aspects that we learned for geography. And then lastly, geography shows the relationship of Earth and the environment. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that one because I think it's important. So again, we'll click the highlighter, pick the color that we want. And then I'm going to go through this chunk and think if there's anything that doesn't really help me learn, the information for this lesson. So I think geo, it's a neat thing to know, but it's not going to help me. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight it, and then I'll click the keys on your keyboard, Alt, Shift, and 5. So basically, if you want to highlight that again, you're going to go ahead and highlight the text and click Alt, Shift, and 5, and that will cross it off for you. You can do this if you don't want to look at that information and you just want to focus on the information that's going to help you. So there's no years. It's not talking about years or people in this portion of the text. So I'm going to leave it like that. If I want to show my questioning or maybe I'm not sure of something, I'll highlight it. So say, for example, if I don't know this word, I'll highlight it, click this little button right here, You can also access it right here at the top of the page. And I'll write my question. So I'll write, what is graphing? And why does it relate to geography? This is just one example on how to annotate online. So for history, I do expect you to use the key up above, but the way you highlight it or strike through it, or if you do choose to add images, it's totally up to you. Here's an example of what finished annotated notes would look like. So you see highlighting, you see I deleted some things or crossed them out. I put some comments asking like I'm not sure if I didn't understand something. Also too, I forgot to mention, since we're on the computer, you can put emojis. So I put emojis on the screen so that way I remember what each of these 5 themes mean. And basically, this is what it would look like. So this is just to give you a heads up. Or also, too, I put things in different colors because it helps me to remember. So this is just one way and one example of what annotation should look like.